Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints, we're back on the practice field on Friday out in Irvine, California. Let's head there, check with our guy Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints, and coming soon, LouisianaSports.net. How are you, dude?
Hey, buddy. Doing great. Glad to be here with you.
Our pleasure. Let's start with the news. Nathan Peterman cut. Samson Nacua signed. Puka Nacua's older brother. What do we make of the roster moves today?
Yeah, I think it says a couple of different things. I think the big thing, starting off with the quarterbacks, is that the Saints are clearly very happy with what they've seen from Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. Even though the battle hasn't been super electrifying between those two, they haven't really had many missteps either. So I think that this gives a little bit of a vote of confidence for both of those quarterbacks. This should also allow the New Orleans Saints to give them more reps in training camp. We certainly saw that today, where they saw a lot of action, and all three quarterbacks looked pretty solid today, especially both of those guys. So I think that that's one of the big first things that you can take away from it. The other thing is that when it comes to Samson Nacua, the Saints are clearly very invested in brothers of superstars. It is a thing, and they're trying it, and we'll see if it pays off for them. I'm not sure. No, but Samson Nacua is a big-bodied guy, 6 foot plus, kind of matches what Equanimeous St. Brown was bringing to the team, but Equanimeous has been out of practice here as of late, so they just brought in another brother that's a big-bodied guy that will be able to help them out in that area. Saints are dealing with some injuries at that position. They had another one today with return specialist Jermaine Jackson going off with what looked like a hamstring injury. Let's just call it a leg injury for now. And so they just needed more numbers and more bodies at this position. And so a guy like him, and of course yesterday's signing of Marquez Callaway helps them out a lot there.
Ross, are the Saints good enough at wide receiver right now?
I don't think so. I mean, I think they are at the top of the position. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, both very good. There's no doubt about that. And they're both going to be really, really good in 2024. They're going to be an outstanding tandem. The issue is, what do you do behind those guys? Not even just in an injury perspective. You're not going to be able to play them 100% of offensive snaps. You're going to have to rotate guys on and off. So you really need some of these other wide receivers to start to step up. And I don't know if maybe some fresh faces. I think Marquez Callaway is a guy that has experience here in not here in New Orleans, but with the New Orleans Saints.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that know him in the organization, that like him in the organization, and so maybe that kind of helps to light a fire for some of these other guys. But they need somebody else at this wide receiver room to be able to step up. Because there's just not a lot of people, as we can see, that they can reach out to in free agency and actually move the needle with. They basically all get the same kind of outlook as the rest of these other wide receivers that are already on the roster that they need to develop. So I think that they really need somebody to step up here, or they need to start taking some drastic measures in terms of how they improve this group.
He's on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. I noticed in some of your notes from today a couple things that I wanted to ask about. One is the defensive line. What makes us confident that they seem to be trending in the right direction there after a really disappointing season against the run last season?
Yeah, I think the big thing is that, it's just, you can tell the difference between when a defensive line is making plays because the offensive line is struggling versus when they're actually making plays. I mean, you can see the pass rush moves, you can see the counter moves, you can see the battle go on, and you can tell who wins. And this New Orleans Saints defensive line, in terms of the edge rushers at least, has been stellar so far here throughout training camp. Now, we have to wait and see, probably more to your point, we have to wait and see if they're going to be able to do this once the regular season rolls around and once they start going up against really good offensive lines like those in, Dallas has got a solid one. Of course, Philly has a really good one even without Jason Kelsey there anymore. And so they'll be tested early and often. But I do think that the talent at this edge position right now is better than it was last year. And I think Chase Young is a big part of that. My concern is what happens if Chase Young isn't able to be a part of it. Obviously, he has a lengthy injury history. The Saints have him on an incentive-laden contract for that very reason. I think that's the big thing that you have to look at in terms of, all right, yeah, they've got the talent to be better than they were last year, but can they stay healthy enough to be better than they were last year?
Speaking of health, last time we talked, we were kind of talking about how they they seemingly have had an injury every single day. Any updates there, Ross, as far as what we've been able to learn in a week plus now? What might be serious? Who we might see back soon? Anything like that?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good understanding now when it comes to, like Brian Brzee, for instance, was back on the field today. So that's good news. The Saints had another injury today in Jermaine Jackson. They have indeed had at least an injury all 8 days of practices so far. It doesn't seem like what's going on with Marshawn Lattimore is of major concern for the team. He has been out there now for the past 2 days, although not, he's been in street clothes, standing off to the side watching. But as you know, when it comes to these training camp practices and things like that, presence is progress. And so even seeing him out on the field is good. We did not see Demario Davis today, who suffered the hamstring injury yesterday. That did not surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just say, not worried about it, buddy. Like, he's just one of those guys, you can put out there on the field week one and be totally fine. And that linebacking room has been a playmaking unit for this team so far here throughout training camp. So I'm sure that they really like getting a look at those younger guys too. So I think we don't really have an idea of, what's serious, what's not serious. But what I can say is that the team doesn't seem to be very surprised by these moves. And we've watched them move quickly on guys that have not, that have had more serious injuries. Tommy Hudson was waived injured immediately after he was injured in yesterday's practice. We saw the same thing with Justin Herron, who almost immediately went to injured reserve when he had his knee injury. And so we've watched them pretty expeditiously make those moves. So to an extent, no news on that front is good news when it comes to these other injuries.
Get him on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. Of course, subscribe to Locked On Saints. If you're not subscribed yet, as we announced yesterday, Ross is going to be part of our team at LouisianaSports.net coming very, very soon. I also saw that you noted that Charlie, do we say Smythe or Smith?
Smith.
Charlie Smith, place kicker. Maybe had a little bit of a rough day. Is it safe to say Blake Grupe has that job seemingly locked down right now?
Yeah, I think Blake Grupe is pretty safe, and it's for a couple of different reasons. But I'll go over what he went through today. He missed 2 of his 8 kicks today, one of which was from extra point distance, which is never great, and then the other one was from 59 yards. And remember, this is a guy that also missed a pair of 61-yarders the other day. And the big brand for him has been the leg strength. Oh, he can hit him from 70. Well, so far, we've seen him miss from 59, miss from 61 twice, and we saw him drill a 59-yarder earlier on there. So if those things aren't going well for him, Blake Grupe is not going to be unseated, right? Like, if all of a sudden, Charlie Smith is 4 for 4 from 50-plus or 5 from 5 from 50-plus, we're having an entirely different conversation. But just because you have the leg power to get somewhere, the leg strength to get somewhere, doesn't mean you necessarily have the accuracy. So this is part of what they knew they were going to be working on with Charlie Smith. The other reason why I think that Blake Grupe is very comfortable, or should feel very comfortable in his position right now, is that the Saints don't have to have Charlie Smith win a kicker battle in order to keep him. He's an international player, which means he's exempt from, he's an exemption. So he doesn't count against the 53-man roster even come the regular season. So they'd be able to hang on to him all throughout as a practice squad guy, basically, or effectively a practice squad guy, and then still have their 53-man roster, and it wouldn't bother anything. It wouldn't be an issue. They've got him on a 3-year deal, and they would be able to do that. So there's time to allow Charlie Smith to develop while you continue to work things through with Blake Grupe. And I think that is an advantageous situation for the Saints, because if Blake Grupe really takes off over the course of the next couple of years, but Charlie Smith is developing and they don't want to have to pay out the big contract to the kicker, then they can go to the young guy that they feel like they can turn to at a later time. So it sets them up for a couple of options later on.
It's great context. Make sure you follow Ross on Twitter, X, there at Ross Jackson Nola. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Saints. He's with us here in Hour 3, as long as the Saints are there in camp giving us these daily updates. We appreciate it, Ross. Have a great weekend, man. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, dude. Take care, stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.